Good morning. Is anyone joining me today? If you are, please take and make a comment in the chat that I just activated, and that way I'll know that you're here, ready to go.
Okay, there you go. You're on now. Say it again.
Good morning. If you are here and can hear me, please indicate that by making a comment to me in the chat box. Good morning. I show that someone is here, so if you can hear me, please make a comment in the comments, and that way I'll know that everything is fine with people being able to hear me. We're waiting for a few more people to show up that are registered. I'm showing that there's a few people who have joined us. Good morning. I'm showing that there's a few people who have joined us. So, okay, I'm trying to make sure that everybody is able to hear me. If you can hear me, please indicate so. Over to the right of your screen at the right top, there would be a little window where it should enable you to chat. So if you can see that, make a comment and let me know that you can hear me, please. Okay, and so I just put a little comment in there asking if you can hear me. I show that there is someone else here besides myself, so we're waiting for people to arrive at this point. Okay, I have Chris assisting me on another computer in the other room, and she's not finding the chat box showing up, so let me make sure that that is there for her so that she can follow along with any conversations that you are all having. It's fine. Show that a few other people have now showed up, so let me take a break, and I'll be right back because I'm going to go and make sure that she can access the chat. do to get the chat to show up. Okay, good morning. I'm working on this to see if we can get the chat working so that you can ask questions and interact. Okay, is anybody else out there? I see that we have a couple people here to attend the webinar. And let me know, this is a new webinar platform I'm using, and I spent actually many hours yesterday and last night trying to work to make sure that I could have a good webinar with you all today. But the voice, I had no way of checking out the voice. So let me know if you, over the left-hand side of your screen is a little raised hand. You can raise your hand if you, to let me know if you are able to hear me. Okay, I show that there are a couple other people here now. So can you tell me if you can hear me? Are you able to see the chat box over to the right of your screen? Okay, I have Chris assisting me. She's in the other room on another computer, and I'm going to check with her to see if she's able to hear me. Chris, are you able to hear me? Okay, Chris, you let me know if you can hear me. Nod your head up and down, and she says that she can hear me. Okay. And so then we're going to go ahead and get started. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining me, and I hope this will be a very informative hour for you that will help you to be able to know what to enjoy on your cruise and also some things to avoid. Because when you go to Alaska, my friend Dive Dave up there, he runs Dive Dave's tours. He's lives in Skagway, has lived in Skagway for like 30 years, and just a wonderful guy. And he says that when the 1898 gold rush hit up there, that there was a lot of swindlers that were there to take and rob and swindle the gold miners out of their gold after they had done all the work to get their gold. And so there's still a lot of swindlers in Alaska, just that they are, instead of the gold miners coming out of the hills to take the gold out of Alaska, people are bringing the gold now with them to Alaska, and that's you folks with your hard-earned dollars. And Dive Dave, he says about that, he says, yep, and here in Alaska, there's a lot of swindlers for all those people bringing their gold back to Alaska, and I'm going to help you to keep a little bit of that gold in your pocket. So let's go ahead and get started, and I'm going to take and switch my screen over to where you're going to see my PowerPoint presentation. I will be emailing a copy of the PowerPoint presentation to everybody, but you may want to take notes for your personal interest as well, some things that you have questions about. Now there is, again, this is a new webinar platform for me, so I apologize if everything's not showing up, but I just now toggled over and turned the questions on, And so I'm hoping that you can see a question screen over to your right. And if you have a question, then feel free to go ahead and type a question in for me. And if not, then just save your questions and email them to me. Here in this kind of a forum, though, if you are able to ask questions, that helps everybody else by having them get the benefit of hearing your question and hearing the answer as well. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to my PowerPoint presentation and get started so we can get ready for our cruise. Okay, well, the thing that one of my friends that I've met is Michael Mazalski. He is a best-selling author. He does lectures on the Princess Cruises, and I don't know if he'll be on your ship this year. In the past, he's been on the Golden Princess for a number of years. But he talks about the fact that Alaska restores you to your true best self and makes you feel alive again. Alaska is my favorite summertime cruising itinerary, and that's the reason why it is my favorite, and not because I'm from Seattle. But when I go to Alaska, I feel it does exactly that for me. It restores me to my true best self and makes me feel alive again, because I do have a tendency to work a lot, and with all the work that I do, then sometimes I just, after a while, get into the grind of it, and I need to take a break, and sure enough, Alaska is just what I need. In fact, I'll be going to Alaska the week before you guys basically when you're coming back. I'll be going, when I'm coming back, you'll be going up. I'm on a different cruise line, and so actually I'm going on a Tuesday to Tuesday cruise, and so I hope that that by me being up there ahead of time, if there's anything that I need to learn and find out about, I'll be able to email you about it. But so we'll go ahead and get you started here by going to Alaska. Before you go, then one of the things that I suggest you do here in Seattle is go to the Klondike Gold Rush Historical Park. This is a national park it's a building actually, instead of the kind of park that you normally think about, but it's in the Pioneer Square. And so I highly recommend you go to that historical park. It's free. It's paid for by your tax dollars. When I go down there, which is usually once or twice a year, I end up being able to spend 3 and 4 hours there. They have a great film room where you can go and watch a couple films. Do sign up for the 80-minute walk of Pioneer Square, and it's a free historic walk. It's one of the most fascinating free tours in Seattle, in my opinion, and so many people come to Seattle and they don't know that's available to them. And so before you go on your cruise, please take advantage of this free resource and enjoy the Klondike Gold Rush Historical Park. Now that focuses on what the Klondike Gold Rush did for Seattle. And there's another one of these parks up in Skagway, Alaska, and I'll be talking about that in a few moments. And so yes, most people that go to Skagway go to Skagway today by way of Seattle, and Skagway sees over 1 million visitors a year. And when the gold rush of 1898 took place, then there were 20,000 people that rushed up to Skagway. Okay, and so Chris just came and told me that my PowerPoint is not showing up, and so let me go ahead and toggle back here and find out why that is not showing up. And so just a moment, please. Okay, and so we're working on out the technical glitches, and it's probably more of my technical glitch because of being new with this webinar platform. So I'm going to take a quick drink of my coffee, and I hope you have some coffee and something to munch on while you're there as well. Okay, is everybody able to see my PowerPoint platform? And Chris, if you'd let me know, I know there's a delay with the computer, um, but if you'll let me know here in a moment to see if you can, my PowerPoint presentation is now showing up, I'd appreciate it. It's showing up? Okay, great. So we'll go ahead and continue on now. Thank you very much, Chris. Okay, so please do go to the Klondike Gold Rush Historical Park. And just as a side note, I will be emailing this PowerPoint presentation in the way of a PDF document to everybody so that you can have benefit of all this. But it is about 70 slides I've prepared here. We're going to go through them quickly. And so you don't want to you don't want to have to take notes on everything. And so, yes, Skagway is how people get there is by way of Seattle. And before you can go, some things I want you to know about is first of all prescription medications, and that many people these days are on prescription medications. They have always questions about what to do with taking the medications. Some people will go ahead and they put them in so they don't have to take the whole bottle. Particularly if you're on 10 or 15 different medications, so you don't have to take all those bottles. They'll go ahead and put them in these little dividers. Take these pills on Monday, take these on Tuesday and such. But when you're on a cruise and when you travel, you want to make sure you take the bottles and make sure you have your prescription medications with you in the bottles and not sorted out. And so if you do have any questions on any of this that I go over today, please do send me an email and I'll be happy to take and respond to you. Getting to the ship and parking at the dock. Parking at the dock is going to run you about $20 a day, so that's about $140 for the course of the cruise, and so that can be rather expensive. However, you might, if you have someone has a van that can park at the dock where you've got 8 to 10 people you can carry down there, then that is cheaper than maybe a cab fare or using Shuttle Express to get down there. One other thing that my clients have done is they've taken and used cab, but they will take and they'll go down fairly close to find a place, a public parking place that is not on the pier or not on the dock, but then they'll find a public parking place down there that is a lot cheaper than $20 a day, and they'll park there and shuttle people themselves before the cruise back and forth. And so as far as then the cruise, my advice to you is don't wait. The ship leaves at 4 o'clock. I think they ask everybody to be boarded by 2:30, but don't wait until 2:30 to board the ship. Instead, board as early as you can. My suggestion is to get down there by 11 o'clock and just plan on enjoying a really great afternoon that day of embarkation. When you do get on the ship, the first thing I suggest you do is that there is a daily newspaper that they publish. They'll be putting that in your stateroom each and every night for the next day's activities. When you get on board the ship, you likely will not be able to take and go straight to your stateroom, and so pick up one of those newsletters at either the coffee shop or the front desk. With the deck that you actually walk onto the ship on, the hotel desk, so to speak, or the purser's desk will be there, and they'll have the newsletters there so that you can just pick one up and take a look at that newsletter so you know what's going on for the day. They do have a ship tour where they'll be offering a tour of the ship that day, and it's free of charge, and that can be a fun and informative tour to go on. However, I do find that I kind of enjoy going at my own pace instead of having to try to keep up with the ship tour. And sometimes if it's a larger number of people, it can be a little hard to hear because they don't use any PA system or anything, and they're trying to talk with their voice to the group of people, and sometimes it can be hard to hear. Drinking water and for that, and also like soda pop even. Buying drinking water and soda pop can be expensive on the ship. With drinking water, though, I recommend just drink the water right out of the tap. Or when you go up to a bar or a lounge, if you happen to enjoy drinking water as I do, then just ask for a glass of water. Do not ask for a bottle of water. If you ask for a bottle of water, because of course they would love to sell that to you, a glass of water is free, and ice water or just regular glass of water. But use the drinking water on board the ship, because the ships these days, all of these cruise ships, they pull the water right out of the sea and they put it through some of the most sophisticated purification processing systems on the planet. And it is probably the purest water. It's much purer than what you probably end up buying for $2 a bottle. And so I suggest, if you drink water, either take water on board yourself that you want to drink, or just drink the faucet water, and it will be very good for you, water for you to drink. I want to give you a little tip on eating. The very first cruise I ever went on, which was 1984, I gained 15 pounds. I love to eat, and when I found out that I don't have to choose between, if they have 2 or 3 items on the menu that I'm having a hard time choosing from every night, and that menu will be different. And so there's more than one thing that I want to enjoy to eat, then I just order everything that I want. And so I do enjoy my eating, but of course with that I have to be conscious of the calories. The very first cruise I ever went on in 1984, I gained 15 pounds in 1 week. Yes, yeah, there are stories around the cruise. People go on cruises that have similar stories. So the food is absolutely amazing. But my tip for not gaining weight, because now I go on several cruises a year and I do not gain weight. And the reason for that is that I exercise and walk every day. There's a great gym on board the ship. So on one of the top decks of the ship has treadmills where you can look out a window and watch for whales out in the sea and stuff like that. You can get carried away just going up there for a half hour and end up easily on a treadmill for an hour and a half, because it's just such a wonderful experience to be on the treadmill up there. So I encourage you with that. There's also a walking path on one of the decks where it is made for people who just like to walk, and you can walk around and around and enjoy getting some exercise that way. And then one of the biggest things that I do is that I never take an elevator. Since that first cruise in 1984, after that, many cruises I've been on since, I have never yet taken an elevator unless I have luggage in my hands carrying. But otherwise, I just take the stairs. And it's a lot of stairs, and yes, you know, if you're not in shape to take the stairs, just take them slow. But take those stairs. That's very big help as well. Now, when you do take and get to the dock, then what you want to do is you want to just pull up or drive up to the unloading area. There will be people there to take your luggage. You want to make sure you have your luggage tags printed out. They're part of your paperwork that when you did your online check-in, that you can then print out your boarding passes and luggage tags. Print those out, put them on your luggage, and then have your luggage ready to go. You're not going to see your luggage then for a couple of hours, and so you want to take also a day bag with you in case you end up wanting to change into a swimming suit. I don't know what the weather's going to be like. If it ends up being warm and sunny that day, you may end up wanting to just take and put on a swimming suit, or get in the hot tub, or get in the pool, or just lounge around, or put some shorts or cutoffs on. So do take and think about what you might want for the couple hours in the afternoon to have with you, because you will not be having access to your stateroom right away until they get everything ready for you to go into your stateroom from the people that just left that morning. And so take a day bag with you, and that way you'll be comfortable throughout your afternoon. And they'll let you know through the speaker system when people can enter their staterooms. And your luggage will be in there waiting for you, and so then all you have to do is unpack. So my recommendation is to skip breakfast that morning, Sunday morning. Skip your breakfast and at home, and then when you get on the ship, the first thing I always do is I go straight up to the Lido deck, and I enjoy a magnificent lunch. And I highly recommend that. It's an excellent way to start the cruise. And then after your lunch, burn off some of those calories by taking a tour of the ship. Start on the top deck, and when you check in to go to board the ship, you'll be given a little map of the ship, plus there's also maps by the elevators that are printed on the wall. And so just take and start with the top decks and go from front to back, from top to bottom, and take a careful note of where everything is. Kind of get a chance to get to know the layout of the land right when you start. So then a question that comes up quite often is, will you get seasick? Well, you know, I've never gotten seasick on a cruise, and I've been on some pretty rough waters, but that's me, and this is an individual thing. And the ships do have wonderful stabilizers, and so they're calm, but on the last day, when you are coming out to sea, you are, when you're returning from your last cruise, the very last full sea day, you're going out on open waters out from Vancouver Island, and those open waters can be choppy. And so you might want to, if you think you might experience some motion sickness, then check with you when you go to the drugstore. Just check with your pharmacist, or if you're going to be going to your doctor, check with your medical professional. And there's a lot of really great preventative remedies these days, and there's no reason for you to not feel good while you're on your cruise. And so just check on that. And so what to pack? Well, think about the weather. You know, the weather can range from a sunny 80 degrees and all the way down to a windy and chilly 50 degrees in temperature. And so you want to be prepared for whatever. Of course, look at take and put into, like if you have a weather bug on your cell phone or on your computer, take and put Juno or Skagway, or don't put Ketchikan in there. That's a totally separate weather pattern in Ketchikan. But put in Juno or Skagway and start tracking the weather, so you can then look at the forecast and you'll get a good idea of what it's going to be like when you're going to be on your cruise. But do make sure that you pack in a way so that you are prepared for all weather conditions. Weather up there in Alaska can change quickly. I mentioned this, that Ketchikan has its own weather pattern. Ketchikan is in a temperate rainforest, and they get the most rain of all of Alaska right there in Ketchikan. I've been on many Alaska cruises, and only one time have I ever been to Ketchikan when it wasn't raining. And so I always tell people to just expect it to rain in Ketchikan. So here's a list of things some things to pack. I'm going to go over them really quickly. Make sure you take a good camera, of course. Take a waterproof raincoat and rain pants if you have it, or a poncho at a minimum. Now, there are a lot of places that will sell them up there, but if you have something like that already, if it's lightweight and you can kind of wad it up and just easily take it without taking a lot of room, then take it along. Or even just a big garbage sack. That's essentially what they will be selling up there, are disposable ponchos, they call them, but they're just a garbage sack with a hole cut out in it for your head. I always find it helpful to take a hat with a wide brim. It's good to keep your head dry if you encounter some bad weather, and it's also good keeping the sun out of your eyes. Take some heavy long sleeve shirts and pants, and want to have some good walking shoes. I like to take at least 2 pairs of shoes, a pair of dress shoes and a pair of good walking or hiking shoes, and commonly for Alaska cruises, then I'll also just take a pair of shoes that I'm running around on the ship on too. And so, but when you're going to be important stuff, you want to make sure you have good walking or hiking shoes. You want to take warm weather clothes as well, particularly if you see from your weather bug that it's going to be warm while you're up there. You want to have a jacket. The evenings, even when you're in port, the evenings can be cool, and you may not want to be coming back to the ship early because you're cold. So make sure that you're fully equipped so you can take and stay warm. And a warm pullover or wool or knit hat is helpful. Some gloves, sunscreen, bug repellent, binoculars if you have them. I don't have them, and I've never taken binoculars, but that is a popular thing for a lot of people. And there's a lot of people trying to sell you binoculars. But just know yourself on that. And to me, with binoculars, if I can't see with my bare eyes or through the lens of my camera, then I'm good without binoculars. But a lot of people do like to buy them for their Alaska cruise. A water ball. When you go on your shore excursions for the day, I recommend having some water along with you so that you don't have to pay high prices and leave your gold behind of the people selling you something to drink while in port. I always take a day pack or a backpack so that, again, when I go into port every day, then I have a backpack. I can put my water in there. And I always take and put a little bit of snack stuff in there. Maybe for the morning buffet, breakfast, I'll grab some fruit for the day, and I'll put that in my backpack, although some of the cruise lines are starting to confiscate the fruit now and say, no, you can't take that to shore. So just kind of be a little careful with that. And you can eat it on the ship, but they don't want you taking it on shore, apparently. But still, I'll grab a banana or an apple and try to do that a lot of times. And then take food bars with me as well. Sunglasses, an umbrella, clothes for on board the ship, and with that it's going to be evening attire and also daytime attire, casual attire. And one of the things I want to alert you to is that there will be photographers all over the ship taking pictures. And for me and my family, what we like to do is that's where we like to get our family photos taken. You'll get some of the best photos of yourself taken and that you could possibly think of. So take advantage of that. You can take and go and have all kinds of different backdrops and settings with your picture taken, and take whatever time you want to pose individually as a family unit. The photographers are very patient, and then they'll print all the pictures out, and absolutely free. There's no obligation for you to buy anything. Of course, they want you to buy the photos, but then they'll put them on a wall for you to go and enjoy and to look at. And you don't have to buy them all, or you can buy a package. But do check that out, and so that you know that's available. And for a family reunion cruise, these are great opportunities to get the family together and take family photos. Dress up. Oops, let me go back to that. Dress-up shoes are important when going into the dining room in the evening. They do not like you to take and wear tennis shoes into the dining room. And then, of course, you're going to want shoes for on board the ship. If you like to be playing basketball and things like that, they do have a basketball court on the ship, and so you can take suitable shoes for that and a bathing suit. As far as money, you want to take small bills. People have a tendency to take $20 bills, but then when you get up there to Alaska, everybody going on shore, taking those $20 bills, you'll find that you end up standing around just waiting to get change because the establishments up there run out of smaller bills. Or you just say, forget it, and you end up paying $5, $10, $15 too much because nobody has smaller bills. And so I recommend is you take lots and lots of $1 and $5 bills. There's going to be a safe in your room. So just take all those small bills and lock them in the safe, and then each day when you go to shore, decide how much you want to take ashore, and take a couple $20 bills, but then take lots of $1 and $5 bills so that you don't end up paying a lot more money because you're just having to wait around for someone to come up and with smaller bills so they can make change for you. That is a regular ongoing problem, and you end up wasting a lot of time if you're taking $20 bills up there. So take $1 and $5 bills. Your cell phone and Wi-Fi, use on shore. In Alaska, when you're there, it's great service. Be careful when you're in Skagway, if you get up into the Canadian area, because then you'll be paying international calling rates if you go on one of the short excursions that take you on up into the Yukon. But otherwise, in port, you can use your cell phones just fine. And there are a few places that have hotspots for your Wi-Fi as well. But on the ship, you want to use it in airplane mode. They do have cell phone service and Wi-Fi available on the ship, but it is very expensive. And so unless you absolutely have to have it and use it on ship, then I would say put it on airplane mode or just turn the thing off and don't worry about it. And when you are on the ship, you don't need to really carry anything around with you except for your room key. Your room key acts as not only your room key, but also a charge card. So you don't have to have your money. Just lock all that credit cards and money up in your safe in your room, and then just carry your room key around on ship, and you're good for everywhere you go. That's all you need. I suggest to always travel with a GPS, and I like my handheld Garmin. Yes, I know cell phones these days have GPS devices in them as well, but that they don't always work when you're not with Wi-Fi, and they also can end up costing you extra. And so I like to take my good old-fashioned Garmin handheld GPS that I use in my car, and that way, if while you're on your Alaska trip, you can always kind of help find your way around. And if you do have one of these devices, then make sure it does have Alaska Maps on it. A lot of the Garmin and other brands, TomTom, what have you, they don't come with Alaska Maps loaded, just continental United States. So make sure yours has Alaska Maps. If it does not, you might check into downloading and see how much that would cost for you to get Alaska Map, or just that if it doesn't have Alaska Maps, then just know to leave your GPS device at home. Princess has a Bon Voyage program, and then if you have friends or relatives, if anybody who would like to come and celebrate your Bon Voyage on the cruise, they can come onto the ship with you. You just want to sign up for this program ahead of time. They can come onto the ship, they can have a fantastic lunch, and then take a guided tour and also get a commemorative photo. The cost is $39 per person, and that covers the cost of the lunch and the tour and the commemorative photo, and they'll have a great time. That $39, if they should decide to go ahead and book a cruise within a week or two, yes, they can call me to do that. If they decide to go ahead and book a cruise, not just to Alaska or any cruise anywhere with Princess, then they get that $39 applied to the cost of that cruise. Well, yeah, once you get on the ship, then you've had your lunch, and then it's time to do your walkabout and get ready for your cruise, walking around the ship, and there I am with an ice cream cone in my mouth and ready to have fun for the afternoon. You see I've got my backpack with me, so that's where I keep my stuff for the day. And then finally, the thing that you don't want to miss is you don't want to miss the watch party. That's going to be on one of the upper decks. They've got live music going on, and it's just a lot of fun. And this is a time for you, for people that are like myself, that normally kind of stiff-necked and, you know, not someone who loosens up very easy. This is just a time for you just to go ahead and get down there with those people and have some fun. Just cut loose and just have some fun. Just go ahead and lose it, because that way you're getting ready to have a great cruise instead of just being stiff-necked and uptight like I am oftentimes. So just plan on going there and just having a great time. Participate, get involved, and dance up a storm and have fun. Now, Monday, you're going to be at sea. I love sea days. Actually, I like sea days, love sea days as much as I like shore days. On Princess, they have an area of the ship that is for adults only, and it's called the Serenity, and it's a very much an adults-oriented spa-type facility. And it's a great place. They do charge an extra fee for this. It's a day-use fee. And it's a great place, though, that if you're wanting to get away to a nice, serene, quiet location on the ship, then this is the place one of the great places to go. Because everywhere else can seem like you're in and amongst great crowds. They offer you superior comfort in this area. Snacks are available all the time. And so there's a small charge, like I said, I think it's like about $10 a day for the use of this area. But when you're spending that day at sea, that's one of the things you might want to think of. Now, if you do end up liking the area, then this is one of the best areas to be in when you are going through the glacier. Tracy Arm Fjord, when you're going for the morning, when you're going through that area, this is one of the best viewing areas and the most comfortable places to be if you do not mind paying that extra fee. Now, some information about going to shore. When it comes to eating, you want to try what I like to my personal preference. Yes, you'll see a lot of people eating when they go to shore. You know, they're eating in all the restaurants. There's long lines. And again, this is something that can end up consuming and taking a lot of your time. And so I try to make sure that I eat everything, a big breakfast in the morning, and then take food bars and snacks with me in my backpack so that I don't end up having to spend a lot of my time waiting to get seated in a restaurant in a line and then having slow service because they're just so overwhelmed with so many people when you're on shore. So I highly recommend making sure that you don't get caught up in that unless there's just some place that you want to be able to enjoy eating at. As far as the weather when you're on shore, know the weather can affect your plans, and have a plan B, so that if the weather happens to be a lot different than what you expected, then as we go through this information here today, just know that there are other options available for you, and have a plan B. And we'll talk more about the weather situation here in a few moments. So when you're in port, one of the things is that there's so much to see and to do. And if I go to a land resort-based resort, generally I like to sleep in a little bit when I'm on vacation. But when I go on a cruise, there's just so much for me to see and to do. Just my personal preferences. I can sleep at home, and so I'm up early in the morning and I am ready to go and make a full day of it. And that's just my personal preference, but I highly recommend that. Every evening I check out the ship's newsletter that's in my cabin, and I plan out my day for the next day. I take a look at all the activities that are available to me, and I decide which ones I want to take up. They have so many activities going on board that ship all the time. There will be far more to do than you would possibly ever want to do or be able to do. But do check out your newsletter for that. And so I mentioned about when you're in port, not spending a lot of time eating. And one of the things, though, is that in the morning, when you're up there on the eating your breakfast on the ship, yes, there's a lot of different things that are carb related that you can eat. You know, they have donuts and sweet rolls and bagels and lots of things that are carb related. Well, the thing is though, the carbs will not stay with you when you go to shore. And so I highly recommend to go ahead and make sure that you're getting some foods that are high in fiber and high in protein in your morning breakfast, and that way that'll stay with you and carry you throughout the day very well. Now, getting off the ship, now you can imagine when that ship goes into port and they open those doors up so that everybody can go ashore, you're talking about 3,000 people then trying to get through 2 exits, 2 doors. And so with 3,000 people, you can imagine that it doesn't happen quickly. It can take several hours to empty that ship for everybody to get off. They do give priority to the people that they sell excursions to. If you are going to be meeting someone for an excursion that you did not purchase through Princess Cruises, as I'm going to be talking to you about some of them here later, then just make sure that you tell them, I have to meet this person for my excursion at this time. And even though that you didn't buy it through Princess, just be a little assertive there and make sure that you tell them that you have to be off the ship at that time. And then they'll make sure that you get off the ship. They'll try to tell you otherwise, but they certainly do not want to not accommodate you and have you miss a shore excursion because they did not accommodate you. So make sure that you know what time you need to be off the ship in the morning for your shore excursions, and then be just assertive. If you did not buy it through Princess, just be assertive and letting them know that you do expect to get off the ship. Okay? Now, your first day then in port is going to be spent in Ketchikan. You arrive and are ready. The cruise generally starts to let people off at 6:30 in the morning. Yes, that's early. And I generally don't get off the ship that early, but you're going to be there from 6:30 to 4 o'clock. Now, Ketchikan is the salmon capital of the world. It's a beautiful little city, and so take some time enjoying your first port stop. Now, Ketchikan's population is just 12,000 people, and that's the 4th largest city in Alaska. Anchorage being the first, and then the second being Fairbanks, the third being the Juneau, the state capital, and Ketchikan is the 4th with just 12,000 people. And it's on an island, and if you were to drive all the roads on that island, you would drive a total of 36 miles, and those roads connect to nowhere. So there are 3 ways to get into Ketchikan: by boat, by plane, or by berth. And those are the only 3 ways to get into Ketchikan unless you want to take and swim. And the water is a little too cold for that. Ketchikan has a distinction of being one of the 100 best small arts communities in America. There's wonderful, tremendous artists that reside there in Ketchikan, and their artwork is available in a lot of the shops in the area. If you like nice fine art, I highly recommend you looking at Ketchikan for some of your art. For the real active people, I suggest a kayaking excursion. And it doesn't matter if you're experienced or not, whether it's rain or shine, they provide all the gear that you need for a wonderful time on the water. And so I do have an outfit that I enjoy and highly recommend. That's Southeast Sea Kayaks. And when you get this PDF, if you click on the blue letters there, you'll find that takes you to their website, or you can just Google Southeast Sea Kayaks, or just call them up and talk to them about their guided tours. And kayaking is both guided. If you're very active, that's the one that I recommend. You'll have the most opportunity for wildlife experiences with that tour. But then for most of us that don't necessarily want to take to the sea, then my first most popular pick of anything to do in Ketchikan is to take a taxi cab tour. Now, a lot of times when I'm talking to people, it's just a couple that are going to go up to Alaska Cruise on their own. In your case, you're with a small group. And so I suggest to get people together in your group, and then when you get people together and you want to rent a cab together, you can take and rent up to a cab where up to 6 people can jump in that cab. The cab is a flat rate of $72 an hour. The cab drivers know exactly where to show you on the island, whether you want to see wildlife, or they have a number of different options. You tell them what you want to see. A 3-hour tour, which would be 3 times $72, and so you divide that up by however many people are sharing the cab, 2 people to 6 people. But a 3-hour tour will allow you to experience, to explore, to discover, to see, and do more than what you can possibly do in buying 3 to 6 different tours purchased off the cruise ship. Because those tours off the cruise ship, they deal with massive numbers of people, but a cab, you got you and the driver, and he's going to get you around where you're going to go. And it'll be a fraction of the cost. And so that's my recommendation. When you're at Ketchikan, is number 1 recommendation, take a taxi cab tour. And if you just take and Google Ketchikan taxi cab tours, you can go right to the website, or you can follow the link in the PDF document. Now, there are 2 different tours you can take for walking tours, and when you first get off the ship, there is a tour department or tour office right as you walk off the ship. And it's easily, when you get out of the parking area anyway, it's right there. And there's brochures and stuff about all kinds of things, but one of the most best brochures, I think, is the Ketchikan Walking Tour brochure. And it covers, like I said, 35 different sites in the downtown area and 30 sites in the west end of the area. And I highly recommend, if you are able-bodied, to go on walking tours. Excuse me. People seem to miss a lot of things by always getting involved in bus transportation when they go to Alaska, and your feet, you'll see a lot more by using your feet. In fact, when you're on that walking tour, there'll be signs like this that'll guide you on your tour. You might come across a Married Man's Trail. What that was a trail that years ago that married men used to take from their houses up on the hill in Ketchikan down to the red light district. And so now they've properly marked and named that trail the Married Man's Trail. Around town, there'll be signs like you see here that are guiding and directing you to various places and things in Ketchikan, and so just keep an eye out for these signs. Things are very well marked. Now, I highly recommend in Ketchikan going to Creek Street. Creek Street is what used to be the old red light district, and but it's just a very artisan village, very colorful, wonderful buildings, and just a great place to wander through with the shops and stuff there. At Creek Street is Dolly's House, and it's once an infamous brothel. It opened up in 1919, and yes, it was to provide men with alcohol and girls. In the 1920s, Creek Street was home to over 20 such places, and that became Ketchikan's #1 industry. And so when the days of prohibition came along, then the smugglers would take and bring their whiskey in boats, come up the channel to Ketchikan, up the creek, and then the buildings that you saw there a moment ago in the picture on Creek Street, well, they had trap doors on the bottom of the floors. So the boats at night would come up underneath the houses, and then they would take and bring in the booze from smuggling up through these trap doors. Kind of interesting history. You can go on a tour of Dolly's house when you're there on Creek Street, and it's a fun and informative tour. And so here's a picture of the walkway there on Creek Street. And if you're wanting another way of getting around town, when you first get off the ship, one of the very first shops that you come to is a shop called the Rain Barrel. And they rent these little electric motorized vehicles, and they can accommodate up to 4 people. So here again, you can share one of these with 4 people, split the cost. They're very reasonably priced, and that way you can buzz all around town. So if you're not wanting to use your feet and walk around a little bit, then you can rent one of these vehicles, whether it be rain or shine. It's really one of the best ways to get around town is by renting one of these electric vehicles. There's a lumberjack show that's in a big tented area just off of the where you get off the ship, and I highly recommend the lumberjack show if you've not been to one, an authentic lumberjack show in a number of years. This always is a show that just gets the crowd going with a rowdy good time, and so it's a good thing to have fun with and enjoy. Myself, I normally will take in the lumberjack show, not at the beginning when I'm first getting off the ship, but towards the end of the day when if I have extra time. If I don't have time, then I miss the lumberjack show. But if I do have extra time, then it is something that I end up wanting to take in. And as I come back to the ship, then if I have time, then I'll take in the lumberjack show. Now, I do recommend, of all the ports that you're going to be in, the #1 port for shopping that I recommend is Ketchikan. The other 2 ports, it's a lot of shops that they're not native Alaskan shops. They have a lot of Alaska merchandise, but they're really all about getting to your gold. There in Ketchikan, they have more shops that are local and people who live there year-round, and I think that the merchandise is superior to be found in Ketchikan to many of the other places as well. Now look for these symbols. The symbol with the hand that you see here shows that those items are made in those shops that they, if that's displayed on a window, then they are items that are handcrafted by Alaskan natives and most likely using Alaska materials. And then there's the Made in Alaska symbol as well, and that doesn't mean that if the Made in Alaska symbol means it's product made in Alaska, but it's not necessarily something that's handcrafted, and that's the difference between the 2 symbols. Avoid something I want to go through in each port is what to avoid spending money on. In here, then, this is my opinion. And one of the things that Ketchikan is, we've got more totem poles in Ketchikan than anywhere else in the world for a city, one city. And one of those places you can grab a short excursion to is what's called Saxman Native Village Tour. You know, you get on this bus and you ride it for about a mile and a half, and everybody gets off the bus. I don't recommend that tour. It gets consistently very bad ratings on the online reviews and boards, and so I do not recommend that if you're setting yourself up for disappointment. Now, they do have another if you're really interested in Native American history and totem poles and such, then if you catch a tour and go to Totem Bright State Park, then that is a great place to go. The state park itself is free. You can even, if you do a taxi tour, then I highly recommend that and going out there. But these big bus tours will cost you a lot more than what the taxi tour will cost you. And so, but if you're interested in the totem poles, Totem Bright State Park is a fascinating place, and your bus driver or your taxi cab driver will be able to tell you all about it. Now, one of the things I mentioned, though, is to walk around, because you see so oftentimes, like when you go up to the Saxman Native Village Tour, then people will be taking these bus for a 1.5 mile trip. Well, one time I went up there and I used my own feet. And on the way back from that little village tour that I went on, I was crossing this bridge. I looked over to the water, and this is what I saw. It's a very popular spot for the bears to come down. So keep your eyes open, because at this is the time of the year the bears are going to be there. They're coming down. They've been hibernating all winter, and now they're coming out of hibernation, and they're to be spotted. But so many tourists never spot them because they're not on their feet. They're being herded around in these big buses, and because they're not on their feet, then they miss opportunities like seeing this bear coming down to get some salmon in the river. So when you are walking around, make sure that if you're around water, be on the lookout, because that's oftentimes where you'll see a bear like this. Some of the things asked about is Ward Cove Sea Cycle in Ketchikan. Again, I recommend the kayaks instead of the Sea Cycle. However, for families where you're wanting to have something that maybe is a little more stable than a kayak, then the Sea Cycles are great. But the kayaks, they use very stable kayaks as well. But so Sea Cycle, that Ward Cove Sea Cycle excursion can be good if you're wanting to get on the sea. Otherwise, I go back to recommending the taxi cab tour. And then the adventure carts, that's something you can take and find. And it's just one of those things that's made for tourists. And when I am advising my clients, when they go on a cruise, I usually try to advise them away from things that are made for the tourists, because these are the people that go there to get the gold that you bring to them. And so, you can have that kind of an adventure tour somewhere else. But again, like the kayak, the taxi tour, you're wanting to go up there and really get in touch with Ketchikan. You're wanting to see the wildlife and explore the area for a fraction of the price. A taxi tour is a much better way of doing that. Sure, you're not going to get the adrenaline rush and the adventure, but in my opinion, is you'll still have a much better day of it. Wednesday, you're going to be in the Tracy Arm Fjord, and there's where you will see the Twin Sawyer Glaciers. You're going to be in the fjord from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m., and I highly recommend getting up early for that and being out on deck. This is not where the ship is going to stop. You're going to be on deck. They'll be serving hot chocolate out there on deck, and hot toddies to be purchased as well. The hot chocolate is free because it's likely going to be cold and chilly. You're going through a fjord where you've got ice all around you. But it's beautiful, and I highly recommend you be up there to enjoy that. Now, when you're up there in the fjord, spend some time out on deck on the ship and enjoy just going through the fjord on deck. However, one of my favorite things is I'll either take and go to that adults only area and catch it there. That way, because you've got some, it's just less crowded up there. Or actually, I have also discovered on the Princess ships, there is a lounge that's kind of one of the very top decks that overlooks the pool area and off to the sides as well. And that lounge is full of people at night, but during the day it's empty because there's no staff in there making drinks or serving drinks or anything. But that's a nice quiet place to sneak on off to. And so when you're doing your tour of the ship, find that lounge and just make a mental note of that. That's a great place to go up there, and they got nice comfortable chairs. You can sit right at the big huge window that is looking out over the water, and it's a beautiful place so that you're not out there freezing cold on deck all the time. So what is a glacier? Well, think of a river, and a river flows out of the mountain. Well, the glacier is simply, it's nothing more than a river, but in this case, instead of having water flowing out of it, it is ice flowing out of it. And Alaska has over 100,000 glaciers, and many of them are not even named or identified because there are so many of them. And there are different kinds of glaciers. The kinds of glaciers that you'll be seeing are called tidewater glaciers, and that means that they end at the sea. And when they come and they end at the sea, Then there's a loud crackling noise that they make. You'll probably, when you're in the glacier area for the day, you'll hear some of what's called the calving, and that is the icebergs that are literally forming on the edge of these glaciers, because you imagine this river of ice is flowing into the sea. That ice cracks and breaks off and then flows and it drops off into the sea. That's a process called calving, and it makes a thunderous noise as it happens as well. And so this is the kind of glacier that you'll see. And you can imagine then this big river coming down. It's just a flow of ice. And then every day, because that is flowing every single day, and every day then, hour by hour, that ice is dropping, breaking off and dropping then into the water. And yes, it can be warm. As you see, that day on that cruise, I was there in a short sleeve shirt, and it was a beautiful, warm, sunny day. However, then you see here, it can also be cold and wet. And so be ready for whatever weather conditions it's going to be for you. But whatever the condition is, one thing's for sure, it's going to be stunningly beautiful. And so enjoy it. They have a naturalist on board the ship, and they'll be narrating through the speaker system, explaining things like the blue ice that you see there. Well, that has a very special significance, that blue ice. And so the naturalist will be coming through talking to everybody through the loudspeaker system and explaining things about the ice flow and everything you need to know about the glaciers and the icebergs. Well, on Wednesday from 2 o'clock, after you've been through the fjord, from 2 o'clock to 10 p.m., you're going to be in Juneau. Now, Juneau is the state capital. Of course, they have the state capitol building there in Juneau. But really where most of the politics is done, when the legislature is in season, and then at the end of the day of all the bickering in office and what have you, and in session, then a lot of the people will come down to the Red Dog Saloon. This has been a famous saloon there in Juneau for 100 years. And they'll come down to the Red Dog Saloon. That's where the lobbyists will be at. That's where the politicians will be at. And that Red Dog Saloon is where the politics really happen. And so it has a very interesting history. It is a fun place to stop in. They have a museum gift shop type of a place as well that you can kind of take and browse around a little bit. But it's a fabulous place to stop in. Oftentimes, though, it is jam-packed full. They have an old-fashioned Alaska pianist in there with all kinds of songs that they've got, and making sure everybody's having a good time. But the place is jam-packed full. So just keep that in mind, and you might try to time it so that you're going in if you want to go into the Red Dog Saloon, you go in at the early part of the day, and you're more likely to be able to get in and spend a little bit of time at the Red Dog Saloon. Now, it's not some place that I go in and spend a lot of time at because there's too many other things to see and enjoy when in Juneau. But if you want to get out and go in and have a beer or have lunch or something, then that's a great place to do so. Now, Juneau is the only state capital where the roads have nobody has any way of coming in or out of Alaska on the roads. It's the only capital in the United States that you cannot drive to, and so it's really quite an interesting place. People in Alaska, they kind of wonder why the politicians happen to make Juneau the state capital when a place like Anchorage or Fairbanks, you've got roads that people can drive into. It's where all the population is. Well, of course, we all know politicians like to hide. And so there are a lot of jokes made about that there in Juneau. But again, 45 miles of roads there in Juneau that all go nowhere and connect to nothing. Population in Juneau is 31,000 people, and it is at the foot of Mount Juneau. And so the thing I recommend when you're there in Juneau is to not miss the glacier. It's the Mendenhall Glacier. You can enjoy it from the air and take an helicopter tour where they'll land you on the glacier. And that's if you want to spend about $260 a person, I think it runs. That's an absolutely wonderful experience, once in a lifetime experience. Your helicopter ride is rather short. It's about 20 minutes each way. So you're not going to be up in the air for a long time, but it is a once-in-a-lifetime experience if you have the extra $260 in your pocket to spend. But if not, you really don't need to land on top of the glacier and spend that $260 because you can go out to Mendenhall Glacier. It's just 12 miles out of town. Costs, I think, the ticket to get out of there, you can buy it right there at the dock where you get off your ship. There's a little, like a little wood building, little ticket sales booth, and they'll sell you a ticket for the bus that goes out to there. It costs like $9 or something like that to get out there. But again, with your size group, I recommend using the cab. Get everybody getting together using one or two cabs, so that way it'll save a little more money, and you have a little better transportation by cab than you will by the buses that run back and forth, the shuttle service. And so the Mendenhall, when you go out there, it's to the visitor center. It's $3 per person to go up into the visitor center, and a lot of people miss that. They just think, oh, well, we've seen the glacier here. I highly recommend. This is a visitor center as part of our National Parks program, and I highly recommend spending $3 per person and going in there. It's very informative, and a lot of displays and some films and what have you. You'll easily spend 45 minutes up there in the visitor center, and so go ahead and spend the $3 per person, and you'll enjoy your time much more. Now, when you first get there, the parking lot at Mendenhall Glacier, the visitor center, you'll get to the parking lot, and there's a little kiosk there where the rangers are standing, usually 2 or 3 rangers standing around. Just first thing you want to do is just go up to that kiosk and just ask the rangers what's going on, and ask them about trail conditions, or if they have any nature walks or anything, because sometimes they'll have things going on and people miss it because they just don't know about it. And so ask them what's going on. If there's something going on during the time that you plan on being there, you might want to take advantage of that. There's some great hikes in the area. I suggest taking the hike out to Nugget Falls. It is a fairly easy 45-minute hike round trip. But when you take those hikes like that, then that's where you'll see, again, more wildlife. Most of the people last year that went on the hikes in the first part of the cruising season, late May and early June, then they went on those hikes, and they usually saw a bear with a bear was up there most of the time with the baby cubs, and so you get an added little bonus if you're using your feet instead of just using your eyes and the vehicle transportation. And so go ahead and check that out. Now, one of the things that I said, though, is in getting out there to the glacier, then my recommendation is to hire a cab. When you get off the ship, you'll go out to the parking lot area, and you'll see plenty of cabs out there to be hired. But hire a cab, have them take you right out to the glacier, get the cab driver's phone number, and then use your cell phone to call the cab when you're ready to be picked up, and have them come out and pick you up. Now, when he comes out and picks you up, you can have him take you right back to the ship, but I recommend a stop here at the Immaculée Salmon Hatchery. It's a fascinating salmon hatchery. They have a couple of different tours going on there as well. Right next to the salmon hatchery are these ship containers that are all stacked up in a ship container yard, and that is where the eagles hang out. Why? Well, the salmon hatchery being there makes it so that they get easy food dinner. And but it's beautiful to see all the eagles hanging out there, and you'll see them flying around, and just a beautiful sight. And so I highly recommend, of course, to be able to stop there and see the eagles. If you don't, just have your cab driver stop there, spend 10 minutes there, 15 minutes there. You'll see the eagles, see them flying around, and then the cab driver will finish taking you into town. Or if you do want to take and go through the salmon hatchery tour, then that's very worthwhile as well. But then if you do that, I recommend just letting the cab driver go and spending the time to go through the salmon hatchery tour and to watch the eagles, and watch the eagles after the salmon hatchery tour, and then call your cab driver to come back and pick you up then as you're watching and enjoying your time watching the eagles. Now, if you take a helicopter tour to the top of the glacier, then I want to recommend to you take your water bottles. When you get up there, you'll see rivers running on those glaciers, and that is the melt of the ice from the glacier. Now, the ice that's up there, that is water that you're going to fill your bottle with that is pure, that has not even been exposed to air pollution or anything. That's been all locked into the ice that's in these glaciers for many thousands of years. And so it's some of the purest, best water you will ever have and ever drink in your life. You can drink some of it right there while you're on the glacier. And then if you fill up your water bottle, you'll have some of it to enjoy later as well. But I highly recommend taking your water bottle. That's if you take the helicopter tour, and it is going to be cold up there. So make sure that if you take the helicopter tour, that you have it. It's not only going to be cold; it's also going to be windy. So make sure that you are bundled up well for cold, windy weather, because you'll get about a half hour to wander around up there on the glacier. And they'll drop the helicopters will drop you off, and then you'll have a half hour to wander around. And it'll be cold and windy. If you're not prepared for that, it'll be a miserable $260 that you spent to have that tour. Now, you can also go whale watching when you're there, and I highly recommend this outfit. They have some of the best boats. They're custom made, custom built for this company for their whale watching tours. And when you're out there on the whale watching, this is the time of the year the whales are migrating up there in Alaska. And yes, they'll guarantee that you'll see whales. If you'd like to go on a whale watching tour, then I highly recommend this outfit here. You'll not only see the whales, the scenery up there is absolutely beautiful on a whale watching tour out of Juneau, and that is using Gastineau Guiding Company. There's the information for you. Again, this will be in the PDF of this information that I send to you. Okay, what to avoid spending your money on in Juneau. In town, you will find a Mount Roberts tramway, and you'll see this cable that takes you up the side of this mountain. People are getting on that, thinking it's going to be just a great thing, great view from up there and all that. Well, it's a 6-minute ripoff, is what it is. And so, please, unless you have the only person I've ever recommended to go on that is I had a client that flew in from Texas. This person the wife had never seen or been around snow unless it was on TV or in a book. She wanted to experience snow. And so I said, go ahead and take the tramway up there, because then you can wander around. There'll be a little bit of snow up there, and you can experience snow. She is the only person that I have ever recommended to take that tramway tour. All the reviews that consistently come out on this tour, it tells how lousy it is when you get up there and you think you're going to have a great view from up there, but all you really can see are the trees, because the trees are so thick. And so it's an expensive disappointment is what it is. There's also a historic city and trolley tour that runs around there in Juneau. A lot of people take it, very popular, but again, nothing more than what a cab driver can do for you when you're hiring that cab to take you out to Mendenhall Glacier. And so I don't recommend the historic city and trolley tour. I think it's just another way of getting into your pocket to get some of that gold from you. And so then a couple of things that were asked about is Mendenhall Glacier, and a link was provided to me when they asked about it. And this is a bus trip where the bus comes out, big, huge bus comes out, meets you at the cruise ship, loads you on this bus, and you've got to work on their schedule. I don't recommend that. You're going to pay a huge amount of money for that. No, don't do that tour. Instead, hire a cab, or if you're 3 people or less, then just take the shuttle service out to Mendenhall and enjoy time on your own, and not some big bus tour where you're getting loaded into a bus full of about 60 other people. No, don't do that. Whale watching. Whale watching is a great thing to do there in Juneau, but again, what whale watching company you use and it can make a difference. And so I use Gastineau Tours, and that's what I recommend. Gold panning. Here again, if you go out gold panning, that's going to be where something that is actually made, so they can get more of your gold from you. And so yes, it's kind of a fabricated thing, and they try to make it sound really good and everything, but it's just not something that I feel is really gives you the heart of what Alaska is about. Yes, there's gold panning up there, but this is a fabricated thing for the tourist, and not something I recommend. Okay, then on Thursday from 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. you're going to be in Skagway. Now, Skagway, Alaska is a couple interesting things about it. Before 1893, which is when the gold rush really did hit, Skagway was known for whaling. The whaling ships would go up there into the Bay of Skagway. Well, and here's a little bit of trivia for you to stunt your friends on this. But the last battle to ever be fought in the Civil War was in Skagway, Alaska. Yes, the Civil War, believe it or not, went all the way to Skagway. That's because there were these Union ships up there that were created and commissioned to go and basically scout out and find the Confederate whalers and then blow them out of the water. And so the war had officially ended, but because of communications in those days, that those whalers and those ships that were commissioned to blow the whalers out of the water, they didn't know the war had ended. And so the last official battle that took place of the Civil War was in Skagway, Alaska, of all places. And now there's year-round in Skagway, there's about 500 residents that live there. When you're there, there'll be about 2,000 people there because so many people go to Skagway to get your gold. That's 1,500 people that are there to get your gold and then take it out of Alaska with them. I encourage people to always, always, always try to take and do business with those people that are year-round residents, not with the people that are just there for one reason, to get your gold. When the gold rush was going on in 1893 to 1898 was the buildup of it, there were 20,000 residents in Skagway, Alaska. It was a huge city for that day, and 80 saloons. With that then came a lot of swindlers and lawless behavior, and it's fun to learn about some of those swindlers and lawless behavior. We don't have time to do about that right now, but if you do go to the national park, you'll learn a lot, and some other resources I'll give you here in a moment. So most people go ahead in Skagway do this, the White Pass and Yukon train route. Yes, it's historic, it's famous, and because they can put thousands of people on this train, all they have to do, if they got another 10, 20, 50 people who want to go, they just have to take and put another train car on. And so that's why it's popular. It's hugely popular. It costs about $129 per person. Well, avoid the train because what that train does is it kind of goes up at 15 miles an hour. It's very slow, and it goes up a long way, or not very far at 15 miles an hour. It goes up to this. It's traveling in a gully, in a gulch. You really can't see a whole lot. And you sit on one side of the train going up, and you sit on the other side of the train coming down. And one of the options that they give you is where you can take the train one way and take a bus another way. Well, again, you're going to get on some big bus then with 60 other people. I don't recommend that. I instead recommend to go with Dave. And Dave, that's the man there in the plaid shirt. I recommend his tour because he has two vans, one holding 16 people, the other holding 21 people. Cost is $79 per person instead of $129 on the train. Now, if you are a huge train fan, then yes, you may really enjoy that train, and it'll be worth it for you because you're really into trains. Otherwise, please, please, please don't take the train because that's what's sold to you, but instead take Dave's tour, and if I weren't telling you about it here, you would never know because he only does have those two small vans, and he doesn't take lots of people. And so you'll want to be calling Dave to make your reservations here the next day or two and book your tour. But then you'll see things like this. You'll never see anything like that when you're on that train, and other beautiful sights. And they stop along the way as well. Did you know that up at the top up there, there's a desert? Now, you're no longer in Alaska. You're now in the Yukon. Yukon is in Canada, so you do need your identification, your birth certificates, and your driver's license or your passports in order to go on this tour in Skagway because you're going to be leaving the U.S., going into Canada, and then coming back in the U.S. But yes, there's a desert up there, believe it or not. And so that's often a surprise. Dave tour, you'll learn all about that, and I highly recommend Dave's tour. One of the things is that as you're going along in one of his small vans, somebody says, "Hey, there's a bear." Now this bear, I caught this picture because somebody says, "Hey, there's a bear." The van drove past, it stopped, the driver stopped, turned around, and went back so that everybody could see and enjoy seeing this bear sitting there. And so you won't get that experience on one of those big buses with 60 other people in it. You won't get that experience on the train, but with Dave, you get exactly that experience. And then also the Yukon. Everybody talks about the Yukon because that's where the gold rush took place, and you hear about it. But you know, the train doesn't actually go up into the Yukon. It just goes up into the Yukon territory, but not what's actually the actual Yukon. The Dive Days tour does take you up there, and so I recommend Dive Days tour as the #1 tour in Skagway. But that is a full day tour, and if you're not wanting to spend $79 and go on a full day tour, if you're wanting to just kind of hang out a little bit around town, then make sure that you go to the counterpart of what we have here in Seattle, and that's the National Historic Park, and it's totally free. Once you want to go there first when you get into Skagway, you want to then check in at the front desk, ask them about what programs they have going on during the day, and then take advantage of anything of the programs that you're interested in because it's all free. One of the programs will be a free walk of Skagway through the historic area. Very informative, very good storytelling. I highly recommend this tour, and again, it's all free. And so here they are on the tour then. You want to get signed up early. And so if you're going to not go on Dive Days tour, then make a beeline once you get off the ship to the National Park and then get signed up early for these tours. And then another thing I highly recommend if you're going to be hanging around in Skagway and not going on Dive Days tour, and that's my friend Steve Heitz owns the Skagway Streetcar Company. And you'll see it by these yellow buses. You can sign up for this excursion off through Princess, through the ship excursions on board the ship, or through online with Princess as well. But these gals do a great job informing people and entertaining people. And so I highly recommend my friend Steve. He has quite a number of these buses running around town. And please do take advantage of his tour. It's a great way to learn all about Skagway and to see everything there in town that you want to see. And then if you're staying in town as well and not going on the Dive Days tour, please check out the Days of '98 show. They bring in professional actors and actresses for this show, and it's full of entertainment and comedy and musical. And it's one of the best shows that you'll see there in Skagway. Again, professional entertainers there to entertain you, telling you all about the hooligans that went on in Skagway, about Soapy Smith, and about the characters and the con artists and so forth that were there. Highly recommend this show, and it's something that when you get there, you just simply walk down the street, you buy your ticket, and they have 2 or 3 showings a day, depending upon the day. So somebody asked about the White Pass and Yukon train, and we kind of went over that. And then also somebody asked about the bus tour to White Pass. I don't recommend the bus tour. Again, you're in that bus with 60 other people. Every time that bus stops, then there's 60 people got to get off, 60 people got to get on, and oftentimes it's some senior citizens. And the stops will take you 4 times longer than any stop will take with Dive Dave because you're having to handle so many more people. And so I don't recommend the bus tours. They cost you more, and your experience is way less. And then you're going to be in Victoria on Saturday, starting at 7 p.m. to midnight. What I recommend in Victoria is you get off the ship, and then when you're right out the parking lot, you hang a left. Just turn left, and again, use your feet. Excuse me. Yes, you can take and you can, instead of using your feet, you can get on a shuttle or a bus. But again, if you're not opposed to using your feet, then it's just about a mile's walk into town. And along the way, you'll get to Fisherman's Wharf, where you'll see the sea lions hanging out. You'll see a lot of shops, there's a little dessert shop. There's a fish shop there, a number of different little restaurant-type shops. So I highly recommend walking along also the floating houses that are tied to the docks down there. They're fascinating. Look at the floating houses and the displays that people put on their floating houses. They're all there for you to enjoy at Fisherman's Wharf. Now, from there, if you want to take and go and pick up what they call the pickle boats, you can do that right there at the wharf as well. It's one of the best ways to really see the area by water. and they're fairly inexpensive. I think the biggest tour they have is $15. Most of the tours that people end up taking one is $5 to $10. But they're little boats that look like this, and they have a number of different stops they'll take you to throughout the area and in the harbor. And you can then stop and get off and get back on, and you can have yourself a nice tour, a nice way to get around. But again, you can also continue on your feet, because remember, from the cruise ship, it looks like a long ways out from the town, but it's only really about a mile to walk. But you want to just take and walk along the waterline. You'll have a beautiful walk into town. And then when you get to the Empress, of course, the Empress Hotel is the landmark hotel there in Victoria. If you look at this picture over to the left, you can't see it, but over to the left is the Visitor Center, right behind the building that's the farthest to your left. In a moment, I'm going to refer back to that Visitor Center, so kind of remember where it is. Your ship will be off to the right in the harbor, and you'll be walking along this whole area. And there's lots of entertainment and people trying to sell you their wares and stuff. But there's just a lot of things going on right there in the harbor, and it's a fun place to spend some time, depending, of course, on the weather. So there at the Visitor Center, I recommend the one tour there in the area that I recommend is the Ghost Walk tours. Just show up there at the Visitor Center at 9:30 p.m. They take you on and no later than 9:30. They take you on a walking tour, ghost walking tour, fascinating stories about the history of Victoria, and that'll be from 9:30 to 11 o'clock. Just no reservations needed. Just show up, and that costs $14. I highly recommend it. This gentleman is the son of the guy who started the company, who was a historian for the government there in Victoria, and all of their facts and information are checked and double-checked, and it's a very fascinating tour. Now, somebody asked about a double-decker bus tour, and there's a bus tour called the Hop-On, Hop-Off bus. They are red buses. I do recommend the hop-on and hop-off bus, but typically you're not going to be there during hours that anything you could hop on and hop off is going to be advantageous to you. And otherwise, the bus tour, you can take a bus tour, but if you've been to Victoria before, you can avoid the bus tour as well. If you've never been to Victoria, then sure, that might be a good activity, just to be able to take and sign up from something on the ship, and then be able to get off the ship and then hop on this bus and go on the bus tour. And so that gives you a good way to see Victoria and see the area. But again, you're going to be there fairly late. 9 o'clock, it'll be getting dark. Keep that in mind. A lot of the places the bus tour takes you to during the day, you can enjoy, like Craigdarry Castle, and you can go in and see the castle. But at night, you're not going to be able to see any of that. And so the bus tour, for the most part, is not always something I recommend because of the late hour that you're there. But if you just really want to do a general tour of the city, sure, you go ahead and you can do that. But it's not the number one thing I recommend. Again, I recommend using your feet. So the last thing I want to do in ending this is that I want you to be able to go to my website. I have a card distribution business where you can take and mail 2 to 3 free cards. You can use some pictures. You can make postcards out of these cards. You can use some of the pictures that you take on your trip and just download those through your computer and send out some postcards to your friends. Let them know about your trip. And so I've made it available to you so you can mail 2 to 3 cards for free. I even pay for the postage. And there's a link to the website you can use. And again, that'll be all sent to you for the PDF document. So that pretty well concludes my information I wanted to run down with you for your enjoyment of your cruise. And if you do have questions, please do email me. I'll be sending this PDF document off to you today. And I appreciate everybody spending this time with me. I know I went a little bit over. It's 10:24. I try to keep it to 60 minutes. And the interaction is not working in the way that I would like to have it work, where you'd be able to ask me questions right here. I apologize for that, but I hope everybody had a good time. Please do send me your comments in an email so that I know what the experience was like for you, other than the fact that the comments were not available or the chat was not available here. But please let me know what the experience was like for you, what you think I can improve on and do better on in the future in giving these webinars. because you are the people that I do this for. I don't make any money telling you about any of these people, and I don't make any money for the last 2 days I spent preparing this for you. I just appreciate your business and booking your cruise with me, and that's why I do this, but it is something I do extra for you. So please do enjoy your cruise, and thank you very much for attending today. Have a really great day.